Richard actually jokes with me about saying that I stole his idea. And I keep saying, no, my guys aren't vampires. They certainly aren't vampires. They're not even zombies. Zombies, to me, were, those boys in the Caribbean who, do the wet work for Lugosi. And I thought I was creating a completely new monster. The neighbors suddenly turned into flesh eaters, ghouls, and that's what I called them, ghouls, in the film. And I thought they were completely new. What I really was saying, which I didn't articulate until the second film, was when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. And that was actually the tagline for the second film, when I finally gave up and decided to call them zombies.
What makes a zombie film worth talking about? This month, we have talked about 7 movies spanning over a whopping 5 decades. Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, Zombieland, Dead Alive, Shaun of the Dead, 28 Days Later, and finally tonight, Train to Busan. George A. Romero, who we have established as the godfather of the zombie genre, believed that the zombies are almost incidental. The stories are about human communication.
I felt that it didn't matter at all. What should matter is that this extraordinary thing is happening, and people are still arguing about upstairs, downstairs, who's the boss. They're still arguing about their own agendas instead of facing the problem. And that's really what all of my zombie films have been about.
But if the stories are only about that, then why has this genre continued to scare and fascinate us for 60 years? Is it because the monsters are barely different than regular people, our families and neighbors?
She's not your mum anymore! In a minute she'll be just another zombie! Don't say that! We're not using the Z word!
Please, can we just calm the fuck down?
And which of the dozens of zombie films are worth talking about? Only the ones that bring something new to the genre? Or are we okay with formula as long as the stories are interesting? Critics of The Walking Dead, which has been dismissed as a zombie soap opera even when it was popular, love to write pieces every couple seasons that say, The Walking Dead has finally made zombies a threat again. It's easy to get so distracted by the interpersonal human conflict that the zombies themselves become an afterthought. One film we discussed this month, Zombieland, took a novel approach, leaving their main characters alive. Everything needs a sequel these days. Others, such as Return of the Living Dead and Night of the Living Dead, were fine killing off everyone by the end, knowing they could just create new characters in the next franchise entry, and not wanting them to get stale. Tonight's episode has 2 major purposes. First, we are going to talk about the last entry in our zombie month. Yeon Sang-ho's South Korean horror film, Train to Busan. Much like Night of the Living Dead, this film decides to contain the action by showing the infection spreading on a train. This film burst onto the international scene in 2016 and was immediately praised, including by Edgar Wright, and got rave reviews. Of course, leftists among us will probably just be jealous about the high-speed rail the action takes place on. Train to Busan took zombie movies in some really interesting directions. For one thing, rather than just affecting humans, it seems that the biowaste spill that caused the outbreak also affects animals, although this is not really explored too deeply. Much like 28 Days Later in World War Z, which we talked about earlier this week, the zombies turn fast and are able to run at almost superhuman speeds. This is used for pretty terrifying purposes, as the space most of the action takes place in is extremely small and closed off. The zombies also appear to be extremely sight-based and completely lose focus when put into darkness, such as a tunnel, as they can no longer see. This has drawn comparisons to Snowpiercer, which also made use of tunnels. Lastly, as South Korea has extremely strict gun laws, Train to Busan gets extremely creative with the action. Our second major purpose, a much bigger undertaking, is to close out this month without taking the 5 hours that happened on our Murder Night wrap-up. We should probably get started then.